immediately they come on the air, and here comes Plumber Moxley through the crowd. He's the new IWGP, or as they used to say back when I got the tapes, IWGP champion.
IWGP, which stands for I don't give a f***.
And but apparently he does, Brian, because that's the point. He came out, and I'm thinking, what the f***? He is because he recognizes the magnitude of himself in his own mind. He's now full force trying to get this IWGP title over as the big deal, and the announcers are pushing it. And all I'm thinking about, if Vince McMahon had told Hulk Hogan in 1986, hey, I've made a deal with Inoki, we're going to have an IWGP world champion come in here too, Hogan's one and only response was, when do I win it? Right? Because their AEW world champion isn't, and bless Samoa Joe, I love him, and he's the best pick they got right now, especially, but the AEW world title is not over because of the fact that there's an ROH title and a fucking Continental Breakfast title and a fucking Interworldal Continental fucking Divide title and every other kind of title. And now here comes that it's a prettier belt. And actually, between Samoa Joe and Moxley, Moxley is the bigger mainstream name because of his run in the WWE, even though it was a different name. You can't hide that fucking face. So now they've got another world champion that's going to go out there and fucking harangue us with another 10 or 15 minutes like he did here about how badass he is and how much sweat and blood that he has put into this, and how fucking he eats bones and drinks people's piss. I don't know. And
I tap out to your gym teacher.
And then taps out to the fucking, Papa John's delivery guy. But they're confusing the issue with their world title.
Better ingredients.
And then also, even if you overlook what he looks like and overlook how rotten his work is, in the past he has given promos on occasion that were good, that made sense, that sounded coherent. I remember one we praised when they were in another bad position. He had to come out and give a rah-rah speech for the company. It was a couple years ago. But that was all before he went to rehab. He was coherent then. Now it's just him out there about how badass and determined he is and always has been, with the pints of sweat and the blood, and the crowd chants, "You deserve it," because the few people that decided to come believe he does. But that's the promo. But here's the technical aspect of this was abominable, and he wouldn't face the hard camera because there was absolutely nobody on that side of the building, and because Moxley craves the attention of the few and the adulation of the few instead of the recognition of the many, he couldn't work, he couldn't even do a 360 and talk to all sides equally, and they would shoot it hopefully like, he had to instead turn to hard camera right and talk to those people, because that way the people on his left and the people in front of him were the only people in the fucking building. But as a result, anytime they took their hard camera shot, it was just him standing to the side, or looking at his side while he's talking some other way. So they try to go to a handheld to get his face. But then the way that he's standing, because he's disregarding anything about being a professional television performer and gone straight to address the House on national television. They get the handheld shot of Moxley with his face. There's nothing behind him but a big screen that's covering the empty half of the arena so that you can't see it. There's nobody there. And they're feeding program audio, not program audio, but they're feeding the the ISO of the hard camera shot, I know I'm getting in the weeds here with inside baseball, but the bottom line of what you're looking at is you're looking at Moxley talking to the crowd straight on, while over his shoulder looks like it's suspended from the ceiling is a ring with another ringside section behind it and another Moxley standing talking in a different direction.
Oh, bizarro.
It almost gave me seizures. What an idiot. It's just, it either looks like, again, there's a ring suspended from the balcony with like 2 rows of fans behind it and another guy in the ring talking to them, while this guy's talking over the camera to another set of people that we can't fucking see. Because when they go to the handheld camera, the only fans that you can see in the building, because of the angle in which that he's positioned himself, are the ones on the fucking screen that are the first 3 rows of ringside on the other side of the fucking...
I give 0 fucks and 3 shits.
We didn't shoot television like this in OVW. So it almost looked like one of those old, for John Fell, just for him, one of those old DC Infinity covers where Superman is sitting in the barber chair getting his hair cut, but the scissors are breaking. But he's reading the Superman comic book, where on the cover he's sitting in the barber's chair with the barber cutting it, and he's reading the comic, and it goes on.
I don't know if that was for John Fell or Travis Heckel. I can't decide.
It could be for Travis also. But anyway, so trying to listen to that, he had a raving meltdown trying to convince people what he was saying. He hopped from subject to subject, and he's called out Powerhouse Hobbs for next week because he wants to get at the Phallus family. So he's going to beat in some decisive fashion the only member of the family is really totally worth a shit right now. And finally it was over. Can we somehow petition change.org for a mandatory mental evaluation for Plumber Moxley?
I don't know. I don't know how much success they've had recently in actually forcing anything to happen. You know, he came through the crowd, and that was the liveliest the crowd was. It's a big moment, the show's starting, and here comes Moxley to Wild Thing. The crowd got quieter and quieter. By the time he challenged Powerhouse Hobbs, they didn't give a shit. And especially because of the way Hobbs has been used. He didn't challenge a main eventer. He said, you know, Heenan family, I want Haku. Haku's a badass to everyone else. When you were a kid, you're like, yeah, it's not Andre, it's not Rick Rude. Again, the promo wasn't especially good. I've said it before, everyone feels insecure right now. And they're trying to talk their way into people seeing them the way they think they should be seen.
Well, yeah, his whole point was everybody said it was impossible that I'd never hold this great prestigious belt. That's because they're all Japanese marks. They talk about these goddamn things like they're holy grails when their own company belts are fucking worthless.
Yeah, and that's a conversation, by the way, for another time. It's not even about Moxley here, but since the beginning of AEW, New Japan is nothing. They've lost all their top homegrown talent. Their foreign talent gets signed up by Tony, and then they have to hope they can work with Tony and use any of these people. The state of New Japan right now is not good, and Jon Moxley being IWGP champion is just mildly indicative of that.
Well, and now the problem is this is going to morph into IWGP television, because then all these guys can fulfill their dream fantasy scenarios without having to get on a plane.